Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Aira Live event. I'm Janine Stanley, and I am your Director of Customer Success and Engagement here at Aira, the Visual Interpreting Company. And today we will be listening to a panel, everyone, and welcome
From the United
to this
Nations
Aira
and
Live event. Panel will be on aging and technology. And Mr. Troy Otillio, our CEO, will be part of this panel. And that is the top reason we are bringing it to you, because Troy will be talking about the role of technology to aging populations. This is quite an honor to be speaking at the UN. And today we will be streaming here on YouTube. And if you are in any of our other platforms and you would like to listen, we will soon have this feed available in the Aira app. So please,
Yes.
if you would like, and here is our visual interpreter for today, Sid. Hello, Sid is visual interpreter and producer. And
Hello, Janine. How you doing?
hi. Hello, wonderful on this very rather auspicious day, I think, for us.
My gosh, yes, this is an historic occasion when you think about the context and having Ira represented at the United Nations. After all, the visually low vision and blind community is um, a worldwide issue, and to be
Absolutely.
brought in a panel like this is just quite a historic honor.
Yeah, it is quite a large panel too. So we don't have the sound quite yet. I think they were testing their microphones, but from the room. But could you give us a description of what we are seeing on the video here?
Yes, so certainly. It's a fairly large room. There are 7 individuals seated behind a large wooden dais or desk, if you will. Starting from left to right. The first person is our own Troy Otillio. Troy is wearing a suit. He is light complexion, a little bit of gray hair. There's a person next to him. I can't quite make out the individual's name, but this is a light-skinned, I believe, woman with brown hair. And then there is a gentleman next to him has a beard, light complexion, and dark hair. All of the gentlemen are wearing suits except for the very far person to the far end. He's got a suit coat or sport coat on, but no tie. And then there's a gentleman next to the fourth person is wearing a blue suit. He's typing away at a keyboard, it looks like. And the person next to him is a light-skinned, I would say, young woman with brown or blonde hair. And then the next person in line is a woman with dark hair. And then I believe the final person may be the moderator, but unfortunately the roles aren't quite clearly recognized at this point. The room itself has some tables in front of it. It looks like I suppose whenever they have the UN delegates coming in from different languages, they'll have little earpieces and whatnot. It looks like on a table are some of the earpieces that allow them to listen in different languages. But it looks like right now we're kind of in a holding pattern, waiting for the event to begin. But it looks like we've gotten feedback also that we are live, and folks
Yes.
are able to pick us up on the app as well.
Excellent. And this is a new feature of the Aira app. This is our event page where you can see not only current events, but you can also see upcoming events. And you can listen to our past events, including the video from those events. So this is our third live. Actually, it's our fourth. Well, wait a minute.
We've
As
done
I'm
a
trying to
few.
remember which one. Yeah, I was going to say this is the continuation of our live events. This is the fourth one, actually, that we are broadcasting this way, and we will be coming as soon as they begin live from the United Nations in New York with Mr. Troy Otillio and the panel Aging and Technology. And if you would like to view this, if you happen to be on Facebook, because we shared a couple different links on Facebook, the direct link to the UN presentation. If you are just sitting out there and wondering, okay, I want to walk around, you can certainly get there by going to the Aira app, tap the More tab in the lower right corner, and then go to Events, and you will see right up at the top the event at the UN. You can double tap on that, and you'll see the YouTube player right away. And our fine engineering team has made it possible for this feed to be live, and things are going well. People can also join through the Zoom link, which we have provided, and there are a few folks right now who are on Zoom. And we should be starting the panel shortly. I believe the start time was 1:15 Eastern time, which is 10:15 Ira time, or Pacific time, as you will.
You may be able to hear a little bit of background sound from the event. It looks like the main microphones have not been turned up, but I could hear a little bit. It looks like they are starting to get started. They were taking a few pictures while we were chatting. A few folks are kind of looking up and looking more engaged at the moment. There's some smiling faces.
Excellent.
Some people are working their cell phones. I'm not sure if they're putting it in silent mode or what, but I do see a few folks that are.
I would guess so, yes. And we'll be talking to Troy about this on Access Matters next week. So you will get to hear all about this adventure at the UN and what will be coming toward convention season at Aira.
It's such a cool honor to be represented here in the UN. It looks like it's a variety of different technologies and organizations that are being brought in to chat about this particular topic, and it certainly looks like it's very well represented by different groups.
And Troy will be, and here you can hear a little bit of the background noise there. And Troy will be speaking on private companies bringing technology to aging populations and throw in a little bit of accessibility there too.
I did find a little bit of a write-up that said representatives from the esteemed organizations, including Global Initiative on Aging and AARP, will share insights into their efforts to advocate economic health and social inclusion policies and best practices for the whole ecosystem of aging and longevity. Additionally, panelists from T-Mobile, Francis Weston Company, Junoverse, and startup Aira will offer perspectives on accessibility, leveraging technology, private sector expertise, and authentic inclusion to address the multifaceted challenges facing older adults. I just noticed that Troy put on one of the earpieces for a moment that often delegates will listen to when it needs to be translated in different languages. But yeah, it looks like they are starting to, well, nothing's happened yet. We're still kind of in a holding pattern, but I believe they're about to begin.
Excellent. And you can join us on the Aira app for iOS and Android. So Android folks, please feel free to
Hello, everyone.
Good
morning, good afternoon, good evening for those that are connecting.
This is
to
Ms.
this
Sylvia
event from
Candemil
Europe or from
Vice Chair
Asia.
of the Global Initiative on Aging
We're very
Foundation.
honored to be here at the UN headquarters, and we have a stellar
This woman has a bright suit outfit.
Here today within the
she
Open
is
Ending
light-skinned and has kind of a light
headquarters. And today we're going to
brown
talk about
or slightly
promoting
blonde
inclusive
hair.
aging through technology, collaborative perspectives, and cases. First of all, I would like to give you some in-house logistics. I have been told to tell you this for the virtual attendees. Please, can you view the captions in another browser window by using the link provided on the page, and the Arabic, Chinese, French, Spanish, and Russian captions are available. So all you need to do is open the stream text window. So my name is Sylvia Candemil, and I'm the moderator for today's event. I'm the Vice President of the Global Initiative on Aging, one of the partners that have set up together with UNITAR, Francis West and Co., and G3 ICT this event and this wonderful location. And I would just like, for those with visual impairments, to describe myself. I'm a 50-year-old woman with long hair, ashy brown eyes, and olive skin. So, to set the tone, what we're going to do is I will describe very briefly what GIA is trying to do. I will introduce everyone, all the different panelists. I will give the word to our dear Ambassador Gallegos, and he will give us a slightly bigger introduction. And we'll follow with a number of questions for all the different panelists to give their point of view and address the different issues in technology, aging, and an inclusive society. So first of all, I would like to let you know that GIA is about bringing opportunities to the global issue of aging. It's actually about being inclusive. It's about giving practices and best cases and enhancing what it means to age in a positive and inclusive way. And one of the things that we're really looking into it, I have to say, to set the tone for the event, I would like to set the scene to the viewers and the attendees. We believe, if I might change the slide, that brain health is actually at the core of that we ensure that we live gracefully and we remain relevant. And why is this so important? Because we have analyzed some data with IHME, which provided information that is very valuable regarding we have over $1 trillion that is spent annually on healthcare for brain health. So what does this mean? It means money that has not been used in the right way. It means people that have brain health conditions. This is from anxiety, depression, dementia, Alzheimer. It means, and this affects not just the seniors, it means the young population that they're going through anxiety. And there are tools, there are things that we can do to stop this, to prevent this, and it's not being implemented into society. So why are we talking about this today? Because if we don't have health, if we don't have brain health, we don't have physical health. If we don't have physical health, we're not able to connect with our community in the right way, with our families in the right way. We're not able to become engaged in our labor, with our work. We're not able to be functional in our society. So it's important, it's at the core of one of the issues within aging that we need to address, and technology is at the core of that. So just to show you another slide, which is very relevant, globally, the lost income, the percentage of GDP that is lost globally, it goes from 1% all the way to 3.5% globally. Trillions of dollars of income lost because of brain health. So this is just a little bit of information that we wanted to set a tone. So with that, I would like to introduce you, the panelists. And we have, on my right, we have Ambassador Gallegos, which is the board, the chairman of the board of UNITAR, of the Global Initiative on Aging, and of G3 ICT.
Light complexion and in a blue suit.
Next to Ambassador Gallegos, we have Mr. Mohammed Ali Lauti, Director of Capacity Building and Advocacy at G3 ICT for the Global Initiative for Inclusive ICT.
Dark brown hair with a beard.
Next to Mohammed, we have Jackie Lee, the Director of Government Industry Segments at T-Mobile. And next to Jackie Lee, we have Troy Otillio. I hope I pronounced your surname right, which
Troy
is the CEO of Aira. On my left-hand side, we have Francis West, the founder of Francis West & Co. And at the left side of Francis, we have Martin Frolander, which is the CEO of Juniverse. And with this, I would like to give the word to Mr. Ambassador Gallegos to give us some introductions, remarks on this topic. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your presence here today. Thank all those on the internet. This is a very important subject. The 14th session of the UN Open Working Group on Aging is poised to address critical issues surrounding accessibility, infrastructure, and habitat for aging populations. This panel brings together a diverse array of stakeholders from nonprofit organizations, leading corporations, and innovative startups to explore workable strategies and impactful uses of cases enhancing the lives of older adults worldwide. Representatives from esteemed organizations, including the Global Initiative on Aging and T-Mobile, will share insights into their efforts to advocate for economic, health, and social inclusion policies and best practices for a whole ecosystem of aging and longevity. Additionally, panelists from Francis West & Co., Juno Verse, and startup Aira will offer perspectives on accessibility, leveraging technology, private sector expertise, and authentic inclusion to address the multifaceted challenges facing older adults. Through engaging discussions and illustrative use of cases, this panel will highlight successful initiatives and best practices that will support the ecosystem of an aging population and participation fully in public life and decision-making processes. We must acknowledge that the world is dramatically changing the demographic patterns. We have 1 billion persons who are aging. If we multiply this by the 2 persons of direct impact, we have 3 billion people. The trends are that we will have double that population aging until 2050, which is only 26 years from now. We can discuss the levels of numbers of persons who are aging, but we will have eventually, if we are 2 billion, we will have 4 billion people directly impacted as a direct group of impact. From innovative telecommunication solution to age-friendly infrastructure and inclusive health systems, attendees will gain valuable insights into collaborative approaches to address the evolving needs of aging populations. Join us for this enlightening discussion that underscores the importance of collaboration, action, and partnership in promoting inclusive aging and advancing the rights and well-being of older adults worldwide. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Gallegos, for the introduction. And now we will move to the questions with our panelists. So I would like to ask the first question.
Sylvia, the Vice Chair.
Feel free to just tap the button and start answering away. And the first question is, how can collaborative efforts between diverse stakeholders effectively address the multifaceted challenges of quality and whole life, parity of the whole person, and equity of the whole society for all the persons? Please, the floor is yours. Who would like to go first?
My name is Francis West. I'm a founder CEO of Francis West & Co., and we are a global advisory company focusing on strategy for digital implementation and accessibility. I think the topic
Francis
of
the
aging and also in this complex world of reality that we live in really calls for a complete rethinking and reframing of the understanding of the aging. Today, a lot of times we look at aging as a kind of a destination, so to speak. In other words, people only start talking about aging when you turn 50 or 55 plus. But the reality is the minute we are born, you know, as a baby or as an infant, as a newborn, you start aging. And the society has evolved in such a way that, especially in the context of technology, it's collecting, for example, data from even when you are in your mother's womb. For example, you have ultrasound data. And we have to think about how do we reconstruct the society and leveraging things like technology to support the growth of the individual from birth all the way through the entire lifespan, and think about how the different factors that come into play, whether it's work, whether it's learning, whether it's a social connection, all these factors are interrelated and can be brought together in technology. So I think it is a complex problem, but at the same time, technology has evolved to the point where we actually, at the beginning stage of using technology to address these multifaceted or complex problems of society, such as aging.
Thank you. My name is Martin Frolander. I'm the CEO of Universe. We're a Swiss-based
light complexion, short, dark, brown
company
hair,
working across
wearing a
different
sport coat and a
areas
denim
of
shirt.
the demographic shift. And first of all, thank you for inviting me. It's been almost 20 years since I was here as a UN staff member. Before jumping into the question, I would like to reinforce the title of this session, Inclusive Aging Through Technology, as I believe it's important that we all view technology as an enabler for inclusion and not a force for exclusion. My point of view here today on the panel will be from a private company perspective, working on executing country and company policies and strategies related to the demographic shift. So I'm on the grassroots level of things. The question about collaborative efforts between diverse stakeholders, I think it's a very, very important question to discuss, and please interrupt me if I'm taking up too much time, Sylvia. But as been mentioned already, right, aging at any stage of life is multifaceted, and it's an interlinked process that requires a holistic approach. And I believe we've made quite a lot of progress in understanding the complexities of aging and engaging many, many diverse stakeholders in the pursuit of inclusive and better aging. However, where I think we have been doing quite poorly so far is applying successful collaboration models. And in the absence of these collaborative models, we often just produce fragmented improvements and isolated age-related initiatives. And I think it's important for all stakeholders to recognize longevity as the overarching present and future reality and apply collaborative frameworks accordingly. I just want to illustrate with an example, and that highlights very good intentions but poor collaboration. And this is the progress report of the Decade of Healthy
Martin is
Aging.
holding a
Out of 150
booklet.
projects produced here, very few, if any, have collaborative models including multiple stakeholders, in particular the private sector. And I think each stakeholder brings unique knowledge, expertise, experience, and resources to the table, and it's only by leveraging this stakeholder diversity that we can address the diverse needs of older adults. It is everyone's responsibility to use collaboration models as interconnected as aging itself and working jointly in the interest of the people. Thank you.
That's really wonderful, Martin, and is key to show. It'll be interesting
back
to
to
hear
Sylvia,
some
the Vice
samples
Chair.
of how this collaboration can happen. Would you be able to either answer the previous question or add also some examples of how this collaboration can happen to enhance the quality and be more inclusive society of technology and the global issues regarding aging, please?
So this is Jacqueline Lee. I am a Director of Industry Verticals for T-Mobile. I've been with T-Mobile for 28 years, but been in the telecom industry for 30.
Jackie is sitting next to Troy.
Collaboration and finding simple solutions. Sometimes we make things very difficult. And
Jackie has
I
dark
am
curly
looking
hair,
at this
wearing
not
a
only
dark
from the aging
sport coat,
perspective, but also from accessibility.
light complexion.
Through my line of work, I have the opportunity to support the different verticals that government work with, and one of which is accessibility. And through that lens, I've noticed that aging is one of those that is often overlooked. And the part of that, though, that I've started to see, and it's happened in little bits and little projects, is where we start collaborating and working with the youth and working with groups that you may not think of, is where things actually start to happen and the magic starts to happen. And an example I'd love to share is a few years ago here in the United States, there was a senior center who was in urgent need of internet access for the seniors. But their biggest concern was, making sure they could use it and having the ability to access the internet and the tools that they needed. And the biggest concern was nobody will use it. And we found that you could simply tap in to the school districts, and they have amazing teenagers that are taking computer classes, and those students need extra credit. And those students thrive, and so did the seniors, off of working together. A simple 2 to 4 in the afternoon on Fridays, there was a reliable group that would help them. And it was a win-win. It didn't cost any money. It just was thinking outside the box and filling multiple needs. And the best part is it was generationally, it overlapped, and relationships were built, and conversations were had. And it's the power of that kind of collaboration that doesn't have to be difficult. And I think so many times we'd like to make things difficult. And so one message I'd like to bring up is look at simplicity. Like, is there a simple solution? Don't make it more difficult than it needs to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. That was really wonderful, because it's one of the things that we see. We're looking at aging from the perspective of a global demographic problem, and we keep thinking about the seniors, their needs, and we're looking at it from an angle of where we've been up until now, which is slightly negative, but there is so much. All the answers to the global issues of aging are on the resourceful skills, knowledge, experience that the seniors have in our society, and we need to find ways of tapping into that, allowing them to be part of the system and collaborating with the youth. The seniors are the key for the youth to be able to have more jobs because they have the resources. So I love the samples that you gave us. I would love to hear from Troy as well, please. Give us, you have a wonderful sample to share of how simple things can really work technologically to have an inclusive portion of our work within aging and disability. Please, Troy, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to be here.
Troy is wearing a suit.
First trip to the UN, and I've been telling everyone I know I'm going to the UN. I feel like I've finally grown up, but we're talking about a very serious and important topic. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Aira, but first I'll tell you about me. I am the CEO of Aira. Aira is spelled A-I-R-A. It stands for Artificial Intelligence Remote Assistance. I represent a company that has only been around for about 8 years, and we consider ourselves a startup. We think like a startup. And we uniquely provide services for people who are blind and low vision. But there's a huge intersection with aging when you recognize that 70% of the people who represent those with vision loss are 50 or older. It is part of aging, right? Is you lose some of your senses. And our service is very simple, and it is practical. It's also quite effective, and I'll just describe it because that's going to help me explain a little bit about how technology and humans can combine to create a very simple but effective service. So this idea of Aira is really built around something called visual interpreting. So you're probably familiar with ASL or sign language. Sign language interpreting really bridges the divide between someone who, has hearing loss and communicating with others, so speaking language or sharing other audio information. Visual interpreting is the analog to that. It's very similar. And what you would see, you're free to download our app. It's very simple to use. It's free to use. But what it does is it allows the individual who's blind or low vision and is in the older adult sector to work with a human. So we just bridge the divide by connecting people who are blind and low vision to a remote professional trained agent. Sometimes people say it's fancy FaceTime in reverse. It's quite a bit more. We do leverage AI and other tools, but what's unique about it, I think, as it relates to older adults, is there's also this digital divide. There's a lot of great technology out there, AI. There's 1,000 apps on my phone. We all use mini apps, but older adults did not grow up in the age of digital apps. This is a new environment for them, and increasingly, their children or the people that they want to stay connected with are in this new digital space conversing, and they're left out. So I'm here to say that you can build scalable, effective solutions. It doesn't need to be complex. It can be simple. And the unique aspect that we learned in deploying the service is that the human in the middle makes a huge difference. It's great to build awesome apps that we silently work with, privately, and even message. But the power that lies behind Aira is in that visual interpreter who's a trained, professional, empathetic, not sympathetic individual who's taking thousands of calls and understands the customer and gains their trust. And I think as more businesses, as more governments, as more folks adopt visual interpreting, it is going to empower especially the blind and low vision community to be more connected, whether that's jobs, whether that's socially interacting. And we see that today. We have lots of examples. We've served over 5 million sessions to date. So just, if you think about that, that's 5 million interactions that might not have happened, because the alternative is what? To not get your task done, to not have the communication, to avoid something, or to ask someone else for that help or assistance. Yet, I think all individuals deserve to be independent. That's why at Aira our motto is access is a human right, and I think especially for people who are aging, like myself. So we're really proud to deploy a scalable solution, and I would encourage everyone here to think about how to, again, deploy simple, scalable solutions with technology, with the private sector.
Thank you, Troy, and it's really wonderful because obviously that's a way of ensuring one of the global issues that we have is isolation.
This is Dr.
So
Ms. Sylvia again, Vice Chair.
One format using technology to bring what we need, to home, to service, not just always make things more complicated. It's actually making that connection more simple. So thank you. Jackie, you wanted to say something?
I just wanted to add one thing. So I think, lots of times technology can be scary, but in the case of Aira, I want to make just kind of a connection of
This is
collaboration.
Jackie from T-Mobile.
So without connectivity, without the use of 5G, years ago in 3G, this video would not have been an option, right? The technology that we use today for that visual interpreting, it wouldn't have been an option, right? And it wouldn't have been as useful if you're trying to carry a huge computer with you. But now with the use of a phone or with a tablet, you can literally take it anywhere. I have had the opportunity to be on a campus of a school. I've actually seen Aira used in the downtown in where I'm from in Utah. They have 4 blocks of the city that are all mapped with Aira, where you can just simply navigate the city yourself with the use of this app. It's not possible without the collaboration, without the use of the technology, which makes, great ideas even better, right? And so I'm thankful for that and a big supporter of what Aira is doing.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Jackie and also Troy just said. Troy mentioned that
this is Francis West.
This is really a human rights issue, and also Jackie talked about her work in the accessibility area. And back in 2006, I had the honor to work on the UN Convention on the Rights for People with Disability, and at that time I had the pleasure working with the ambassador to really make sure that the Article 9 of CRPD include the technology focus. And coming back to the question about multi-stakeholders, I think one of the lessons learned that from the CRPD that we can potentially apply going forward to the aging or for the older adults and human rights is that what we learned is that in the accessibility or disability world, at least 20 now it's coming up 18 years ago, there seems to be the stakeholder, which is you have nonprofit as advocacy groups, and you have governments focusing on policy, and then you have business. So the 3 very important stakeholders didn't really come together, at the beginning. It's like the CRPD CRPD policy was set, and then we're trying to convince the private sectors, and of course the NGOs and advocacy group has always been very vocal. So I think this time around we really stand the opportunity to come together at the beginning, at the inception of this human rights issue, especially because technology is underpinning everything. This time, I think if you think about internet took 20, 30 years of adoption, And the mobile took about maybe 10, 15 years adoption. But ChatGPT AI is taking, what, 2 years? So with the speed of technology coming at us so fast, so disruptive, it is absolutely crucial that all the stakeholders, government, private sector, NGOs, nonprofit, come together with a common goal and common intention. Like Martin talked about, it's really not about aging, but about longevity. It's about, happy living, quality of lives. Thank you.
Please.
I would also just like to quickly echo what Troy said. I think it's such an important component to have in any digital solution today, focus on older adults, the human-centric approach. Not only because it's needed, but it's also bridging that trust gap that we sometimes see. So having the ability to speak to a human person, I think it's also helping to bridge and accelerate the adoption of digital solutions. So that's something we embrace as well, and something I highly recommend.
Francis was mentioning that when we were negotiating the CRPD, we were dealing with the issue of accessibility.
This is Ambassador
and in Article
Luis
9,
Gallegos
the discussion was visible accessibility, visible disabilities, which would mean fundamentally wheelchairs, persons who use canes, persons who are hard of hearing, and so on. Those were the visible disabilities which we solved with infrastructure, ramps, and elevators. But I think that discussion went way beyond in 2003, 2004, on the issue of what we foresaw in the technology field. But we never dreamt that we would be in a situation where, as we were saying earlier today, you can leave anything in your home, but you can't leave your cell phone. And I think that you have a population of over 1 billion persons who are aging, who have assistive technology in those phones, have to learn how to use them, have to be sufficiently trained to do this. It is fundamental to have that knowledge, and I think that what we are promoting, the UN Convention on Aging, will have to deal in a broader scale with the issues of technology. It's here, it will stay, and it will benefit the sustainability of development in the global south. It will, the livelihood and quality of life of many people. And I think that it should be looked at from a positive aspect and all the aspects that technology brings with it. So I think what the examples you've just mentioned are extraordinary for the benefit of the populations who are aging. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Is becoming very obvious that technology is
co-chair
to embrace the changes that are required. But how do we engage? How do we engage with businesses, the ones that don't get it yet? Because sometimes you have to think a few steps ahead, and people are being very short-sighted, right? Institutions are being short-sighted. We're not looking about what it means and the implications that that's going to have. And actually, economically, there are huge implications, so everyone will benefit, including the seniors. And so how do we engage business in promoting technology solutions, design that respects all the person's abilities and preferences? Anyone would like to?
So this is Jackie with T-Mobile. One of the things I think first and foremost is as a business, you need to be aware, and often for businesses, you need to be aware who your customers are. And so for me, that is a place that I'm always leading from, right? Who are your customers? Look at your customers. How do we need to access your customers and make sure that they are focusing that there are aging customers, right? What does that look like? And so with my team, that's one of the biggest things that of a message that we're putting forward is focus on that, really asking businesses those questions of who are your customers and really thinking through that with them and helping them to define that, right? And helping them to realize, I think often in the business space, they're not aware of the tools, and they may not be aware of all aspects of their customer base. And so it's been very, very helpful, and probably one of my favorite things to ask, because it's very eye-opening and it always results in you have more customers. So that's been our kind of focus.
This is Troy with Aira. We've been through an 8-year journey trying to figure out that very question. How do you communicate? How do you encourage? How do you bring awareness, not just to the businesses or the government organizations who might want to deploy a solution, but also the individuals? And it's challenging. So some of the things we've learned is, first off, it's going to take multiple channels, multiple messages through multiple sources. Traditional marketing, traditional messaging doesn't always apply the same way for people with disabilities and or who are aging. For example, we've learned that blind and low vision very much love email as a source, when a lot of us nowadays are looking away from email because it's very easy to consume. And by the way, they don't even have to read the ads because the screen reader does not read the ads. It's a little tip there. But ultimately, it's about building with the customer. So when producing solutions, whether it's technology or a program, I think a lot of extra effort needs to go into the empathy and the discussions and the engaging. Too often do we see well-intended solutions coming to market that haven't fully contemplated or built with the market, or even understood what message is resonating. Ultimately, with businesses, it's the same question: what's in it for them? And same with government. Yes, there are laws that can compel certain outcomes, but that's not enough. There has to be something in it for the stakeholders, and there's plenty there. We've been very successful as a company. We're proud to say we have over 200 businesses and organizations, including government agencies, who deploy visual interpreting from Aira. So we've learned a few things, but it does require patience, and it does require a lot of listening, and you need to throw away your assumptions coming in to really understand what the market is looking for.
Thank you, Troy.
Sylvia, the co-chair, is now speaking.
Why is it so important to build technology policy into human rights policy for all the person? Anyone, please?
This is Frances West from Frances West & Co. And I think it's important to build the a technology into the, I'm sorry, question again?
So why is it so important? Why is it important to build technology policy into human rights policy for all the persons?
Yeah, so the technology, like we talked about, is really ubiquitous, and it's everywhere, and it affects how we learn, how we work, how we socialize, and it is becoming part of our being, that we just cannot take technology out of our lives. So from that standpoint, it cannot be an afterthought. It has to be part of the policy thinking. And if you leave it unattended, for example, right now the hottest topic is about AI trustworthiness, AI bias. And this is one example where we let the technology kind of run ahead of the human basic value system. And this is actually a very interesting, for those of you know a little bit about my background. I spent 37 plus years in technology industry, and you watch the evolution of a technology. It went from, used to be called the mainframe in the back office. You know, you just use the computer for productivity gain. Now the computer or the technology in the form factor of your cell phone. So everybody is carrying this humongous amount of compute powers with them. But come with that is actually responsibility of the technology, right? And right now we hear a lot about privacy and securities. These things were not really in play when in the old days, when it was just about processing data and, you know, for productivity gain. But now you're affecting a human being's both quality of life and also their identity and all that. So companies, technology companies especially, has to be much more aware and then take on what I call the responsibility. And there's what I call the 3 R's. First is the responsibility, and the second is really the respect, respect for the human in this whole formula. And the last but not the least is that if you cannot have a good policy that you implement both inside your company or in collaboration with your business partners or your supply chain providers, then you cannot have the right, what I call the 3rd R, the reputation for being authentically inclusive. So to me, having a policy of governance as part of your overall organization construct is absolutely crucial, especially nowadays when technology is changing and evolving at really at such an extraordinary speed.
That's great, Francis. I think it's very clear.
Sylvia
I would
is
like
now
to
speaking.
actually touch upon another subject, which is crucial, we find here, which is how do you reframe the concept of retirement as a holistic and preventative process, starting early rather than traditionally? And how can we use technology as a transformative role to shift this? And I would like to hear first from Martin, because you work on that industry. Please enlighten us.
Thank you so much. Yes, I do. This is Martin from Juniverse. We spend a fair amount of time working with trying to reframe the idea of most elements of retirement. I think it's important to understand that the new age of old age is just at the very beginning. The largest demographic cohort consists of individuals my age, mid-40s and early 50s, who will reach retirement and the 70s in 2050. So reframing retirement is perhaps one of the single most impactful preventive measures we can undertake to ensure that these cohorts retire healthy and inclusive. Late life employment and retirement systems are quite old and ill-suited for today's reality. But if we change them, it could really have significant transformative impact on people's health and well-being. And the reality is, tying a little bit back to Sylvia's slides in the beginning, is that most people, they transition into retirement unprepared for a post-working life. Between 20 to 40% experience depression, loneliness, and other forms of exclusion simply because they were not prepared for post-working life. And additionally, up to 35% of senior workforce never reach retirement age due to either preventable health conditions, caring responsibilities, or unwillingly being forced out of employment. So these figures underscores the critical importance of reframing late life employment and retirement as a holistic and preventive process that starts much earlier than today, both from an individual perspective, but also from a workforce perspective. And I think by addressing these proactively, we can mitigate these challenges and promote well-being and inclusion in later in life. And of course, leveraging technology, we can assess where individuals are unprepared, we can curate personalized pathways, implement cognitive training programs, social engagement activities, and other actions that support individuals in maintaining well-being throughout their later years. And I think here employers, both public and private, have a very, very important role in the process. I could mention a few, but I believe Malta serves as a very good example in this regard, integrating retirement preparation and transition into their healthy and active aging strategy for 2030, one of the few countries that we've come across who do this. This forward-thinking initiative is designed to guarantee that individuals retire in good health and are fully prepared to participate in what society has to offer. Thank you.
Could you maybe elaborate a little bit more on specific ways of the technology? How can that be implemented? Because there's a lot of information that you just gave us, and how do you make that a reality? How do you implement? How do you facilitate this transition?
So the reality is that we work together with organizations, employers, to implement the solutions across their senior workforce, most commonly from 55 and up. Our technology is designed so that there is a comprehensive assessment to identify the poor areas of preparation and then prepare personalized pathways for these individuals through retirement preparation and the transition. So we curate programs, that's part of the individual pathways, and we support them with mentoring, with the coaching, and other elements to help them prepare. And what we have is we use a unique methodology where we assess the retirement readiness score in order to further progress that score and retire ready.
Really wonderful, Martin, and we need more of these initiatives globally that embrace the needs of the senior population, and actually not just the senior population. You need to think ahead. You need, analyzing what is happening in front of us, we need to think about what do we want to be doing, how do we want the world to treat us, what are the services that we need when as I'm aging. We don't want to be struggling as we are right now and not having a society that provides a whole bunch of opportunities where everything seems to be a struggle. And there is so much opportunity out there for services, for the technology, for the private sector to provide opportunity to serve the population at large, and for the public institutions to allow for these policy changes to help the private sector to transition so that we all have opportunities, so we are able to have transition via education. We can have, instead of just having one degree, one master, and if you're lucky enough to have a PhD, to be able to do different courses that allow you to transition through life. And for that, we also need flexible working hours, and the government needs to be open to the possibility and not penalize the institutions that allow for flexible working hours. We need technology to allow the transition for the seniors that have different impairments or not to be included and heard, and the data to be part, data, to be there for the over 50s. Thank you, Europe, for including it, but we know that's not happening worldwide. So we need the rest of the world to implement this data. And the same for healthcare. We need prevention. We know that all the information, all the academia has already shown us all this research that shows prevention. Teach a 15-year-old how to look after themselves emotionally, and you will have someone in their 80s that have tools, simple tools that allow them to know how to be, if they're in isolation, to research and be part of a community. You don't feel isolated anymore when you learn to have those tools early in life. So, and so on and so on. And there's so much that technology gives us the accessibility into all of these opportunities, which is wonderful. So now I would like to, if someone else would like to add any more comments before we go to the final remarks by Mr. Mohammed. So maybe Ambassador
I would, I think that when we began GIA, when we began the Global Initiative on Aging, we were conscious of the issue of a change in the demographics, but we were absolutely convinced that the effects of the pandemic on persons who are aging had made us extremely conscious on the structural deficiencies we had in the health system and in the care system and in many others. Now, I think that this is a very important problem that we face in the world as we change the access of demographics, because we're going to have people who are going to live more than 90 years old. And this has come upon us at a moment where we reflect on changes in the workforce, changes in in sustainability, changes in the health system. And so in many of the countries, I have to recognize that they are in front of a daunting problem, a problem that has so multiple factors that, that we need to be aware of, and the data that comes out is telling us that we're not wrong. We have to apply technology and solutions of technology and modernity in all aspects. One of the concerns I have is that ingrained in the system, legal system we have now, and I being, of course, a person who is aging, I'm 77, you see the banking system in many of parts of the world where by 65 you're not subject to loans. You're not credit worthy. You have limitations put there under the issue of 65. So we analyzed, where did the 65 come from? And we found that it was from Bismarck. The German social system of pensioning and so on was the basis for having 65-year-olds. But the average age, as we were talking with Martin, for a German in 1870 was 38. So we are in a different world. We are in a world where maybe the present 65 is the before 30. So we are in a world that is changing, and we need the flexibility, the capability, the creativity, the innovation to challenge those systems that have to change their legislation internally. And one of the purposes of a UN convention is to have a framework sufficiently large that encompasses the billion people who are aging, 80% of which live in the global south. I come from the global south. My country has more cell phones than people. So, you know, the digital divide is something that we need to work on in the concept of looking into how technology will better the lives of persons who are aging. And I think that is the purpose of this panel, and I think it's been marvelous to listen to these innovations, but we must do an effort to have more technology in pro of the human rights and defense of the human rights of persons who are aging.
Well, more of that, because I thought for some reason that we're finishing at 2, but it's 2:30, so we have time. We have more time. Please, Francis, you wanted to make a comment.
Yeah, I just want to follow up Ambassador's comment about, you know, we have to do more, and then we have to, in my way of thinking, we have to do it now. And there is a sense of urgency here. I mean, there was, I was just looking up a study, for example, just in the whole area, since we're talking about technology, in the whole AI world, and in 2023, we're talking about $13 billion worth of business in the AI world. By 2033, which is 10 years from now, the estimate is going to be $255 billion. So that's a 10 times growth. So basically, the opportunity in AI is growing at 40% compounded annual rate every year. So that means that this technology of AI is fundamentally transforming the human race. I mean, there's actually a lot of talk about is humans going to go extinct or not, right? Job displacement and so on and so forth. So, but yet at the same time, you know, AI really came on to scene, even though a lot of academic study has done for many, many years, but the application like ChatGPT only came out about a couple years ago. So it still is at the infancy state. And as Sophia, you mentioned about data, I mean, artificial intelligence basically is made up of two major trunks. One is data sets and one is logic. And the data set says that if you want to be truly equitable and inclusive, you have everybody's data in there. And right now, we're missing a lot of people with disabilities or underserved population. It's not just people, you know, women's data are lacking, or especially aging, older people's data is missing. So from that standpoint, the government could have some data policies, you know, to encourage private sectors or public sector to really make a conscious effort to collect the data. And on the logic side, we all know that as we age, we begin to think differently. Our cognitive and also our physical ability may be declining, but hopefully our wisdom, intellectual ability actually is increasing. So how do we capture those kind of differences and leveraging technology to give us that kind of a balanced view, recognizing the different abilities actually is good for the society? Because as you get older, which I am, and I have grandchildren, I actually have more time than my working, children. So I can give to my grandchildren probably more time and more wisdom. And right now, I'm embarking on this effort to create my personal AI. This is a technology that's beginning to come into play, because today we know of AI as a large language model, LLM, right? But a concept of personal AI says it's a small or a personal language model, meaning just my data. And one of the motivation that I have to creating my AI is I want to be able to pass on my thoughts and my belief and my value, because I am a first-generation immigrant, born in Taiwan, grew up in Hong Kong. So I look at the world differently. So my hope is that my personal AI one day, even though when I'm long gone after, living on the earth, for 100 years, that my grandchildren can look into my personal AI and learn from that AI what I thought. So these are incredible, useful, I think, powerful use cases of AI. But that means we have to collect data today, right? So I think collectively we actually have to march to this order, this sense of urgency order, so we don't miss this boat, so to speak. Because once AI's logic and data is set, it's a lot harder to undo it, so to speak. Thank you.
Sylvia, I want to speak to the data and the digital divide. Just a couple of thoughts going through my mind. Data. I'm going to take a cell phone just because I've been working with these for over 28 years. When this came out, it started as just replace your phone, right? And then a pager, and then wow, your voicemail for those of you, and then you could get fax to an email, like the evolution, right? And then it became your camera, and then it became your wallet, right? It's now your keys when you're at the hotel. Well, let's take this step on it. You talk data. It now is a health monitor, right? You can get your glucose on it, your heart monitoring. It can tell you the temperature of your body. There's so many different applications, right? Well, now let's move to the cognitive side, right? It can help you detect your mood. It can help you detect, it can help you calm down, for anxiety. There's so many things that this device now is going into this whole new step. And so, a basic, I'm back to the basics, right? You keep hearing that from me, but, use those tools, use those, features that are on your phone, because you're going to learn, your phone is going to learn, you're going to share that data. And it is so vital to have data from every diverse background and use data smartly. I will put that absolute plug in is, absolute responsible data use. But by doing that, by solving for the digital divide, and it happens everywhere. That digital divide is in education, it is in seniors and aging, it is in accessible populations. It's all over. But as we solve that, you then can get that data. And so I think back to the basics of, for businesses, for enterprise, for healthcare, for government, having them, helping them use is going to provide you the data that you need to then move forward and actually take action, and build, kind of that accessible future for those that are aging. And so I think that's, keep it simple. And use that tool, and by using the tool, you will have the data.
Thank you, Jackie. And if I might give the word to Mr. Mohammed, please, from G3 ICT.
Thank you. Okay. Am I audible?
Yes. This is Mohammed.
Great. Okay. Thank you. My name is Mohammed Lutfi. I'm, again, Capacity Building and Advocacy Director at G3 ICT. G3 ICT is an organization that started 18 years ago in 2006, and the main ultimate goal is to promote the disposition of the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities about digital accessibility. And I'm honored here to be sitting next to the father of the CRPD, Ambassador Gallegos, to speak about that, and now bring also to add to this the issue of aging. There is a lot of common denominator between aging and disability. The experience of disability causes people to feel isolated and lacking independence. The aging is the same. Persons with disabilities are diverse in terms of their needs and identities, in terms of like visual, sensory disability, physical disability, mental disability. Also, persons who are aging or older people also have different experiences about life in terms of having different health situation, living situation, and so on and so forth. So there is a lot of common things between disability and aging. And this is, now talking about technology, and as we hear from the panel today, technology is growing very fast, very fast. But it's still, access to technology is a human rights issue. So persons who are aging, as any other person in the world, has to have access to technology in order for them to maintain dignity in their life, to maintain independence, and to maintain independence, and to also feel that they are connected to the world. Now, many times we come across older people who refuse to deal with technology just because they don't have the energy, they are not in the mood, they find it difficult, and so on and so forth, especially like with very complicated technology, like we have touch screen. If a person who has arthritis, using their hands is very difficult. So they cannot, you know, with the touch screen, it's not necessarily an easy thing to do. So we need to think about all these like in the same time, and think how we can make technology solutions available for persons who are aging, affordable and interoperable. Like they can use it very easily, they can afford to buy this technology, and this technology is accessible for older people. The same for persons with disabilities. We have the same issue when we talk about technology, but it's very expensive for us to have a computer or a cell phone or even assistive technology like screen reader and so on and so forth. So how can we make sure that older persons have access to technology? This is very, very important. Now, we heard about opportunities around us that would make technology accessible and available for older persons, and it's there. So the good news is accessibility or digital accessibility solutions are available, but we want to make them available for older persons and help them with the transition to retirement life is very important. And technology today, since everything now is dependent on technology, we need to make sure that policies that governments are putting now take into consideration needs of older persons. Now, the first thing and the most important thing that in the disability movement, we also talk about nothing about us without us. So the same is applied on aging people. Because when we talk about aging, we need to consult with older people and see what works for them and what doesn't work for them. So asking people about older people about what works for them is very important, and this has to be embedded into policy development by governments when they plan for social protection programs, health programs, services. These policy issues or development efforts have to take into consideration what persons who will use them think about what is best for them to use. So we don't just assume and take things for granted. The thing is, lots of us take things for granted. And experiencing aging or disability teaches us that there is always a possibility of something different and something that might change in our life. So it's very important to take into consideration that the perspective of the people who are using this technology, what they think about it, also always consult with them. Now, how do we motivate older people to use technology? This is very important. And you know, maybe our generation today, we have the chance to learn computer, but not all of us have the chance to learn computer or learn how to use technology. We have to think of people who come from developing countries who do not have access to technology, or infrastructure there of technology is very poor. How do we make sure that these people also would enjoy equal access to technology? So take into consideration the economy of scale of technology and promote programs that would make technology affordable for people in the global south is very important. And I'm not talking here just about cell phones. It's beyond that. It's websites, it's kiosks when they want to, like ATM machines and so on and so forth. These are, I mean, it's very complex, and we have the solutions, and we should just be brave enough to use them and should not shy from asking people what they think to get their feedback, so we can make sure that we are providing the right services for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammed, for your very well-received comments and remarks.
This is Sylvia,
now,
the co-chair.
we would like to open the floor for questions, please. So if you could introduce yourself and just ask us the questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Richard Jordan from Airline Ambassadors International. And with great thanks to Ambassador Gallegos, who is one of 3 champions who opened space for civil society.
White complexion man,
in the
gray
negotiations, hair. Not just on the rights of persons with disabilities. Ambassador Satyanandan of Fiji, Ambassador Adama Samaseku, in the World Summit on the Information Society, and yourself, Ambassador, who really encouraged nothing about us without us. So thank you for that. Today is the World Day for Cultural Diversity, for Development and Dialogue. And what a great example of this panel being just that, gender balanced, everything you could want. One recommendation, the Association of Former International Civil Servants is having their annual meeting today right across the hall in room 1. Think of all the champions from the Association of Former International Civil Servants who could help promote what you're doing. I myself have taken over 300 courses from UNITAR, ITU, the FAO, and I believe at the age of 76, my brain capacity has really improved. My memory has improved because of UNITAR's work on massive open online courses, which are open to everybody. So kudos to Nikhil Seth, Ambassador Gallegos, and let's hope it helps me keep going for another 25 years. One strategic point for the future. We have a summit for the future coming up in September. Everybody's talking about, of course, intergenerational participation, but let's ensure that older persons who are not retired, and let's retire the word retirement, let's get into the summit on the future. We have another 20 productive years to go. And lastly, the Social Summit is having its 30th anniversary next year. I believe that what this panel could help do is to identify the summits coming up and participate in those to broaden the work that you're all doing. AI, the SG has, the Secretary General has a working group on artificial intelligence. you, Tony, can contribute to the document. So please go online and take a look. So thank you all very much. But the real point that I wanted to make was the great work of UNITAR that's been done for the last 10, 15 years, and that we really need to look at the social summit and participate in that. So thank you very much.
Panelists clapping their hands.
Richard, thank you very much for your comments. I feel very enthused about your.
This is Ambassador Louis.
We're old friends. We've been at this for more than 25 years working in human rights, and I have to confess that in reality it was people like you who made possible the CRPD. We did have opposition from many countries at the beginning, and we had to negotiate the capacity of overcoming very important countries' observations against what is a very successful convention. I think it covers and protects 1.3 billion people who have a disability. Now, you're either born with a disability or you acquire a disability during your life by accident, by sickness, by war, as we see every day in our TV screens. But when you age, you will have a disability beyond 65 years old. There's an 85% possibility that you will have a disability. And most of us who are over 65 have had cataracts and others in the sense. I am very much in agreement with you because we have to work on the issues of the Summit of the Future, the Social Summit, and the Compact on Technology. With G3ICT, we have developed a letter signed by more than 100 experts and organizations on the issue of inclusion of human rights and accessible technology for persons with disabilities and aging in the negotiation of the Pact on Technology. We also have asked an appointment with Guy Ryder for the Summit of the Future. We have a document for him on issues that deal not only with technology but with other factors that we think are extremely important in the Summit of the Future on the issues of development and human rights. The Social Summit is also in our radar, so we are trying actively to participate in this issue. I think we have to have a voice in those discussions and the capacity of doing what civil society did in the Convention on Disability. I will confess to you that I am very honored to have been given an appointment with the Secretary General tomorrow, and we will be talking about those three summits. The importance of what we are doing is vital in this moment of geopolitical confrontation and fragmentation of the multilateral system. And these are the very thematics that unite the community of the world to protect billions of persons who are aging, billions of people who have disabilities. I think it's a worldwide cause, and we all in this panel agree on one issue, that we have to promote and protect the rights of persons with the technology, with the capabilities, and as Mohammed just said, looking into the particulars and having nothing about us without us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We have another question.
I actually have a request. And that my name is Adrienne Berg. I'm here in a few capacities. I'm one of the UN representatives from the International Federation on Aging. I work on the newsletter Words That Are Trending for the NGO Committee on Aging in New York, but I'm also a podcaster.
Wearing a white sweater.
I'm a podcaster for GNEC, which is the Global NGO Executive Committee here in the UN. And my request is that you create a position paper, that you've already taken leadership in the area of technology and aging, and we can't have a Vegas here. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. What happens in this room cannot stay in this room. And I'm going to be very specific about it. Our organizations are very much in favor of a treaty or a convention on the human rights of older persons. And there are member states that are not. And there are two things that have to do with this intersection of technology and aging. One of the reasons is that we already have human rights declaration. This would be like saying that after the invention of the telephone, we had enough information and policy for technology. You cannot fit what is happening in technology and the rights that we should have as older adults into that document. The second reason is that many countries have programs, and they do have programs on the four big issues of aging: healthcare, isolation and loneliness, access to information, particularly in crisis situations, and ability to have additional income. All of those programs are relatively primitive in the face of what we can really accomplish through technology. It is very important that the people who are making these policies understand the power of technology, and although it does not seem possible, they don't. And that's a big problem that you could solve, which you could solve with a really strong position paper. And finally, I'll say this, with regard to the future, the people who are older today, I'm 76, it seems like everybody's 76. I don't know why. But the fact is that the 76-year-old will, for your group, who's the 50s, and they're not going to be my 76 either. Will there be a divide? You bet there'll still be a divide. Why? Because you will come up with even more further personal AI, who knows what, singularity dropping in your brain. I'm not sure. I go to all the conferences. But the fact is that we don't have any flexibility in the current documents, but a new look at what it means to have human rights as you age can include that kind of flexibility, so we don't have to have these meetings in another 50 years or another 25 years. And that's really what has to be coming from. I don't think it can come from anywhere else, honestly, but the technology sector, because in housing, even in healthcare, there aren't the strides as quickly as being made in technology, and we have to be aware of it. And on the digital divide, that too can be an ageist term. I'm married. I have a 76-year-old husband who is totally intuitive about as if he were 15. On the other hand, I'm one of those that you'd say are in the digital divide. I have problems with it, right? He doesn't. He could build and rebuild a computer. So it's not all of us. We are very, very diverse. The great Commissioner on Aging, Janet Sainer, of the city of New York, once said, all babies are the same, but all seniors are different. So we have to acknowledge that too and create coalitions on different lines. But I will say that with AI, I scream all the time, most medical data stops at age 55. And I believe you said know your customer is very important. Well, we're the healthcare customer, so why wouldn't our data be part of that? So I thank you, but I'm very serious about you continuing your conversations outside this room and creating a position paper. It will be recognized and listened to.
Thank you very much, Adrian. We will take you up.
Ambassador Luis Gallego.
We will design a position paper. We have been at this for quite some time, and we have also another document which I find very particular. We are socializing it. It's not a document that is a proposition only from us. We've worked with it with the Harvard Law School and with Berkeley and with others. We have developed a proposition of a convention of agreed language, because many of the countries who sit down in the negotiations say that they oppose the convention and they have a position on this. They oppose the convention, but most of them have signed documents that already they have agreed on the majority of those rights. And I would say more than 90% of them. So we have been tasked with a lot. But your proposition is fascinating. We will take you up on the podcast. We will draft a document on different issues that have to deal from disaster risk reduction to technology to climate change and others. in relation to persons who are aging and persons with disabilities. And we'll take you up on that. I'd love to talk to you afterwards.
We have actually reached the time, so
the last question.
Yes, okay, so Ambassador says the last question, so the last question it is, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Silvana Cappuccio. I am from the Italian Trade Union Pensioners Union of the CGIL.
Light complexion, brown hair,
the discussion
wearing
is
a green
incredibly interesting, and the discussion on how artificial intelligence can be used. And it's for sure that it is an important tool for next years, but it is a tool. And when we talk about a tool, we mean that we want to make it as a factor of social justice, of democracy, of advancement, of progress. So the point of the digital divide was already raised. It is important because the Wi-Fi is not available in most of countries and in most of areas worldwide. But not only this. If we do not have a convention, a treaty, an international treaty, binding, recognizing that everybody, whatever is her or his status, has the right to be taken into care, to have the public health accessible, how we can talk about the accessibility of artificial intelligence. So, especially within the United Nations, we have to promote what is a public system, then through also the private assistance or integration. But we want stronger and in longevity citizens, not customers. Then the market can be at the service of this justice for everybody. Otherwise, the leave no one behind is just a slogan. And I think that we have already too many slogans which were not put into effect.
Thank you. If I might say about that is, everyone here agrees with you, and we are convinced this is going to happen. It might not be right now. It's a matter of time, because sometimes the movement might not come from the public institutions. It comes from civil society and private sector, and it's a matter of time before that International Convention for the Human Rights of the Elder Persons gets implemented. This is how we see it. We have no question about that. But artificial intelligence has to evolve, and we have to bring we have to humanize it. We have to bring the heart into what it means to implement artificial intelligence into our lives. Just like we evolved into when we have the Industrial Revolution, and we thought humanity was lost now that we had this industry taking over the work that people were doing. We are in the same position. We are in the artificial intelligence era, and now it's about putting the heart. How do we make it accessible for us to serve us? But I would like Dr. Mohammed to talk about this topic.
Thank you. Well, first of all, having a convention is very important because it is legally binding for countries to implement policies and national legislations to support the issue that the convention is covering, which is aging. The same case we have with the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. But the work does not stop there. We have to keep this in mind. G3ICT in 2020 issued its Digital Accessibility Right Evaluation Index. While we see that governments, 85% of the countries that were covered by the index, have policies and legislation on digital inclusion or digital accessibility for persons with disabilities or disability rights in general, when we go to implementation and measuring the outcomes of these programs, the percentage gets very low. So for us, what we need to think is beyond just a convention. It's how we enhance international cooperation and collaboration among stakeholders. One key point to keep in mind that how we can work together to standardize and harmonize standards on accessibility. And this is very important because when we go here in the US, have different standards than that they have in Europe, or different from the one that they have in Japan, and this is causing a major issue that is not helping the digital bridging this digital divide among people. So it's very important that we keep in mind that there are efforts that are happening. For example, what Ambassador Gallegos just talked about, the work that we are doing in preparation for the Summit of the Future. This is a key objective, which is how we can work together to make sure that when we talk about accessibility, we're talking the same language, we're talking the same standards, we're talking about the same perspective, we have the same language, because we are not sure yet if all of people have the same understanding of what accessibility means. Because for example, when I was talking to a guy in Bangladesh, for him, accessibility was just like a wheelchair or a cane, but they don't think beyond that. We need to broaden our perspective about technology and inclusion. AI is very important. We have to make sure that AI is safe and respects privacy of people, whether older people or persons with disabilities. There are lots of resources in terms of knowledge and information about digital inclusion. G3ICT is about to launch a toolkit that covers every single aspect of digital inclusion for persons with disabilities, whether it's an emergency and humanitarian operations or education or employment, and definitely it will be publicized. And we encourage everybody to visit g3ict.org to learn about our work and what we are doing in terms of promoting the rights of persons with disabilities and older persons to technology. Thank you.
Well, I would like to simply close this event to thank everyone that is here in person and everyone that has connected online via the UN Stream Live. And this will be recorded. This won't stay in Vegas. We're spreading the work and the knowledge that happened here around the world. I would like to thank UNDESA to allow us to be here within the Open-Ended Working Group. I would like to thank all our panelists from T-Mobile, Aira, G3ICT, Ambassador Gallegos, UNITAR, Universe, San Francis, West & Co. And thank you, and good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Thank you.
And this has been our coverage of the panel from the United Nations that included Aira's Chief Executive Officer, Troy Otillio. I'd like to thank Sid, our visual interpreter and producer for this broadcast. I'm Janine Stanley, and if you'd like to learn more about Aira or visual interpreting, you can check out our website, www.aira.io. That's AIRA.io. Thank you.